Excellent. Good evening, everybody. It is August 12th, 2020, and I will start by reading our vision statement. The Ashland Public Schools cultivates the academic and social emotional growth of each student through a supportive, collaborative, innovative, and challenging environment. Students will develop into self-motivated, resilient, lifelong learners who embrace their role as responsible contributors to a global community. This meeting is being recorded by WACA Cable TV, and our order of business this evening is we're going to be starting by moving to go into executive session under GL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to conduct strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. The Ashland Educators Association teacher contract is the subject, with the intent of returning to open session. Then after we return, we will have some time for public comment, and our administrative items include a COVID-19 update with a fall reopening discussion and some DESE guidance, school committee meeting schedule 2020-2021, warrant approvals. The consent actions include approval of minutes of July 22nd, 2020. We do not have the 29th minutes as of yet, I don't believe.
Correct.
Acceptance of gifts and donations, committee reports of activities, member updates, dates, action items, and then we will adjourn. So first I'll do a roll call to see who's here. And see if everybody's okay with that order of business this evening. Kathy Bates?
Here, and I'm okay with the order. Thank you.
Mark Terry?
Here, also okay.
Paul Kendall?
Here and good.
Aaron Williams? And are you here, Aaron? Okay. And then we need somebody to second that motion to go into executive session, please.
I'll second it.
And then I'm going to take a roll call vote on that. Kathy Bates?
Yes.
Paul Kendall?
Yes.
Mark Terry?
Yes.
Aaron Williams? And yes for me. And does everybody know how to get to the executive session, separate Zoom meeting? Everybody's good with that?
We're leaving this session and logging to the other one, correct?
Correct. And
Yes.
that login information, Mark, came in an email from Karen.
Yeah, I've got that.
Excellent. Okay, so I'll see you all over there, and anybody who's waiting, we will get back as soon as we can.
All right, great.
Thanks.
As I promised to the community, I did submit our and post our plan for the upcoming 2020-2021 school year on our website, as well as to the Department of Education. I want to say publicly thank you to all of the administrators and the time and effort that they put into this document and the process. I will say we recognize that it's not perfect, and we recognize that and every decision we've made comes with lots of struggles for families, students, as well as teachers, and all of our educators, and we're very aware of that. And but I believe we have created a plan that has been thoughtful, deliberate in terms of the safety and health of our students and our faculty and staff, while meeting some tough guidelines and expectations of our educators in terms of how we deliver education in the fall to our students. Thank you to the task forces that exist within all the buildings, and the district task force that started meeting back in April. The amount of feedback and review of the draft document I received over the weekend, and Mike received over the weekend, was not only helpful, it helped guide cleaning up our document, and we appreciate that publicly. I want to say thank you to those folks. And the next phase for us with this document is to continue to update it. It is a living, breathing document. It is what we have recommended and what the school committee has approved to the Department of Education. in terms of our model to start the year. That being said, we are very cognizant of data and cognizant of the scientists and the epidemiologists and what is happening locally as well as in the state with regard to schooling in the fall. So we will continue to monitor that. Just yesterday, the Department of Ed, as well as the governor's office, put out some metric that we're still wading through in terms of what it looks like and how it could apply towards the public schools. And hopefully we'll be able to come to some, resolution with using the metric to guide us to move between the different models of education, whether it be remote only, the hybrid model, or full in-person learning. And so we're still working on that component of it. I do want to say that many families have emailed myself as well as the building principals with lots of questions. The building principals and directors, Kathy Silva and Jen Cutler, will be hosting numerous webinars over the next week to discuss building-based specific questions, which may not necessarily have been in full detail in the entire plan. And while some areas of the plan are really detailed, others probably are leaving questions for families. And we felt as though, as an admin team, to provide folks the opportunity to ask specific questions as it relates to their building makes good sense. So we will be doing that all of next week. So families, be on the lookout for those links and registering for the webinars. I also want to just comment on one piece of it, if I can. I know there have been numerous emails to myself, as well as some building principals, typically the same individuals, but discussing the grouping, or the term, the cohorting, the pulling of students together in groups for teaching and learning. And after reviewing numerous models and how we could effectively do this and take an approach that allows for efficiency and consistency, we settled on using the alphabet and looking at how we could break up our students in those groups, while also understanding we talk about cohorts, but we have a specific groupings of kids that we have to have in the school every day that we're in-person learning. And if you want specifics from Kathy, she can provide that to you with regard to certain special education levels of our students, certain levels of our English language learner students, our students who are, who are deemed, homeless, et cetera. We have an obligation to ensure they're part of those groups first. And then we continue to add in the groupings to ensure that our class sizes in the group A and the group B are not over 15, because over 15 does not allow us to have 6 feet of physical distancing in our classrooms. And some families have said, well, we live in a neighborhood. We've got a pod of kids that we hang out with, and that we have the same values of how we're approaching COVID. And we think it's we should have the ability to have our students go to school together. And what I'm saying is we can't do that. We can't manage that. If we agreed to all of the requests that are coming in, then our model itself will not work. And I just ask that families be understanding and patient with our process, and that we're looking at getting our schedule squared away in the next week or so. I mean, Dave and Kelly, especially, when you're dealing with 7 classes or 6 classes of students, getting them into the classes in groupings based on the requirements, and then looking at the alphabet, and then making sure that we have siblings being taken, taken care of as well for families. We're doing the best we can with this. And I just want to, let families know that it's not because we don't want your neighborhood to be together. We're trying to find the most effective and efficient way to group our students and provide the education that all students deserve.
Jim, can I jump in for a minute there?
Sure.
Do you mind?
Your
Just
boss.
communicate around that, and I've seen some public commenting around that in some of the social media areas, and I've been thinking about it, and it's such a difficult situation. We knew that when we picked the model that we picked, that there would be challenges that went along with it, and that we knew that whatever we picked, there were going to be a number of challenges for people. And I think everybody sitting on this meeting is having a number of their own personal challenges. And so we couldn't possibly be more empathetic to all of the variety of layered concerns that people are having, and they're trying to work, and they're trying to get their kids educated, and they're trying to pay their bills, and they're trying to stay healthy. And so are we. And so we couldn't be more empathetic. On the other hand, if we were to address every single request that came in for, all the students that are enrolled with us, it really would be unmanageable. And it's not just a matter of, I've seen some comments about just because, it's additional work for us, we should still do it because folks are taxpayers and we should be making it convenient for everybody. And I just asking, and maybe I'll ask my, the other members on school committee, if you guys would be willing to give consensus maybe for me to join in on a letter from the school committee or from me with Jim, just addressing that the cohorts are the cohorts, and that changes are not going to be made. I think administrators are going to start being bombarded with all kinds of different scenarios, and it really truly would be unmanageable. And I think every single person has a conflict or a problem or some difficulty in some area of all this, and we understand. So it's not for lack of empathy, it's just for us trying to do the best that we can, trying to get a system that has the right amount of kids in each classroom, the right balance of kids, and in the same way that we wouldn't be able to change your teacher placement necessarily if you weren't happy with it, we just can't start moving things around like that. So I don't know how you all feel about maybe putting out some kind of statement along with the superintendent that sort of addresses that, because I think it's becoming a little bit of a problem for Jim and the administrators.
Lori, before the rest of the SC weighs in, I certainly want to make sure that it's also understood that as we approach this, it was done so with our students and our faculty at the front of the decision-making process. And I think, we need to be clear that by having a consistent group, and I understand that folks are going to say, well, it'd be consistent if you just let my kids in with their friends. I get that. But we took a process to ensure that what we're doing is providing a safe work environment for our faculty and staff, as well as a safe learning environment for our students. So everything has been based on that component.
And you can see how it can really spiral. I mean, while it might not seem like a big to honor one or two of the requests, if you get up to dozens or 50 or whatever, I mean, how do you say no when you've been saying yes for a while? And I think the better way to go is we established a plan. The whole process is heart-wrenching for everybody involved. We're doing the best we can, and we're going to ask that everybody do the best they can to work with the plan that we've laid out.
Lori,
So go ahead, Mark.
I think I'm perfectly happy to have Jim send a message if it feels like that's necessary. I do think it's important to really focus on some of the component pieces that are beyond just the logistics, right? I mean, it does appear to the average person, why can't you just switch my kid with another kid, and what's the big deal? And as you alluded to, you know, there are a lot of balancing factors that have to take place. I think it's not at all a stretch to think that families live in bubbles, and they tend to congregate with people who probably are like them. That can be neighborhood based, that can be affluence, that can be race, that can be a lot of different things. And it is critical to, not only from a legal perspective, but from an educational perspective, that we are providing an educational environment that is diverse and representative of our community. And people may not realize that, you know, even moving one family around starts to open up Pandora's box when it comes to compromising not only our legal obligations but our educational ones. And I think it's important that we focus on those things, because if we really were thinking about this as we were really thinking about this as sort of, we just don't want to get into the headache of it. You know, I would say I'm not a fan of opening up that door, but I'd say it really, at that level, is, you know, kind of up to the administration to decide. But I think there are major policy issues here that are really underlying all of it. And, you know, I guess my suggestion is that we focus on those pieces. But, you know, I certainly, like I said, I support you sending a joint communication with Jim if you think that if this issue has gotten to that level that we need to do something. I'm fine with that communication.
Yeah, Kathy, I don't know, you want to go next? You unmuted.
Oh, no. I agree. So if you think it's at that level that we do need to say something, I would agree that you know, I give my consensus that you write a letter.
Yeah, so I don't know if a letter is just our you know, consensus here in support of what Jim's already doing, right? Because honestly, I don't know that a letter changes the volume of people that are coming, or it's just us reaffirming that we think that he's doing the right thing with it. But I'll leave that up to, I'm fine if the two of you want to author something that, I mean, I think it's consistent with what we've already said. You know, I think one of the things is key, and in full disclosure, someone in my family sent him an email. So my daughter's not happy with where the line was. And,
Yep.
And I told her, what do you want me to do about it? And so she comes down, she goes, is his first name James? And she went off and sent him an email.
She did.
I mean, he hasn't responded, I don't
I
think.
know. I haven't been.
But
Been
she
bad at that.
let her face that, you know, they just missed my cohort,
Right
and why it's so much better, and we can watch she can come over here on the days because her mom's real busy, and you know, all that stuff. And you know, but I think where a lot of people, you know, unknowingly don't think about is the equity piece. We can't forego equity for convenience. And, you know, we talked about that on another one. You know, all these pods that would be there, they're most likely going to develop to make it so it's very unequitable that, you know, the kids from this neighborhood all go to school together, the kids from that neighborhood all go to school together. Then that ends up, you know, aligning to a lot of socioeconomic or demographic, you know, boundaries. And that's decidedly what we don't want. We want to make sure, and Jim explained that's why they landed on the alphabet and not something that's easier for bus routes, right? Certainly the alphabet is not easy for bus routes.
Not even close.
So for somebody people think just in their comments say, oh, you're just going because this is easier. Well, it's not easier. Think about it. For us to say, hey, we're going to pick up everybody in this neighborhood these days and these couple neighborhoods, that would be so much easier, but it wouldn't be equitable. And so I think that's, you know, I look forward to Jim disappointing my daughter, and but I'm very proud she sent it to him. But you know, I fully expect the answer to be what he's been consistently saying.
Well, good for her for speaking up. So let me suggest then, Jim and I can talk offline about whether or not an additional step is needed, you know, in a newsletter or maybe not. Maybe this really just wanted to address it because I can see sort of it, rumors starting to fly about what we're willing to do and not so forth. And I thought it was important that we made a statement here or else about, why we did what we did and why we really need everybody to be on board with it as best they can. And like your daughter, Paul, we do appreciate that, that folks aren't going to like it. And that's really one of the unfortunate things about this whole scenario, but it is something that that is important to uphold because of all the reasons that you all stated. So it sounds like we're on the same page. And Jim and I will talk more offline if whether or not anything else needs to happen. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that sounds good, Lori.
Excellent. All right, let's move on.
Well,
Jim?
can I ask before
Sure,
we
of
leave,
course.
Jim, I did want to make a comment after you concluded your comments about the plan in general, but I don't want to cut you off prematurely. So I don't know if you had more to offer on the plan or not.
I do not,
Okay.
except that it'll be continually updated based on the state of Massachusetts and Department of Education when they provide more guidance, because things like athletics, metrics, teacher and student testing, those are all things that are still coming down the pipeline that we don't have guidelines on yet. So our document will continue to be updated as we get that information. That's all.
The only comment I want to make, which is really just a procedural one, is because I was not on our meeting last Thursday, for the benefit of the committee and the community, I was on vacation last week, had intended to be a part of the call, but sadly found myself on a beach with no cell phone reception, and had to walk about a quarter mile and climb a bunch of stairs, or the high dunes, quite frankly, to even get a message to Lori just to say, I'm not going to be able to get a signal to get in, but I do want to take this opportunity to voice my support for the committee's vote and support in passing the plan, and just want to go on record in terms of my vote or my support, because I do think it's important with big issues like this that we all participate. I certainly didn't want my absence to be viewed as ducking the vote or the issue. So that's all I wanted to say. It's just express my support for the plan that the committee voted on last week, and thank Mr. Adams and all involved for all the work that went into it.
Thanks, Mark. All right, are we ready to move to the school committee meeting schedule?
Sure.
Okay.
So you should have received, and again, I apologize, it didn't get to you earlier. It's pretty consistent with what we've done in the past, and it has taken into account holidays and breaks. And the only thing you'll notice that we've had in the past would be we have scheduled full day budget meetings. I didn't put it in there because we tend to not really follow that part of the schedule often. We've sort of manipulated it, and not knowing where we are in terms of the school year itself. I just presented to you. It's the second and fourth Wednesday we typically have, with the exception of there are some breaks because of holidays. That's it.
Right. So I guess I would just add that I'm fine with the schedule. It's our normal schedule, twice a month. And some months it looks like we're only once because of holidays or vacations.
Correct.
With the thing that given our unique circumstances this year, especially if we end up moving in and out of models, I expect that we're probably going to have to add some meetings. There might be more times that we're meeting more frequently than this schedule would entail, but people who want to check up on that can just look at the site or the town website to see if we added additional meetings. That makes sense to everyone?
And Jim, you put out a tentative idea of what we're going to do from a timing perspective for evaluating metrics. How does this? I haven't had a chance to put them side by side, how does that align with us needing to review or make any decisions?
So it doesn't yet, Paul. I mean, literally, what I'm throwing out there was just thoughts and ideas based on the metrics that were presented yesterday, yesterday afternoon, to superintendents as well as school committee members, but also the general public. And I will be meeting with the Board of Health next week. I have to go in front of them to discuss our plan itself, and just because they have questions, and the metrics themselves, I just need to continue to sift through, and I will present to the school committee at our next meeting, an idea more than anything. There's nothing concrete. I think there are conversations we have to have at the AEA level, the Board of Health level, and the school committee level. Just because the state put out this wonderful looking map doesn't really hold a lot of it doesn't really mean much. I can tell you myself, Chris, Mike, Ed Berman, Paul Carpenter happened to be there. We were putting stuff on the whiteboard today, trying to figure out, okay, what does the metric really mean? How is it useful to us in order to determine when we should be in a remote, when we should be in a hybrid, when we could be in full in-person learning. And it's very complicated, and it's the state didn't really necessarily do us any favors with regard to the metrics themselves. They said, well, if you've got X amount of cases within 100,000, then you should be thinking about this. Well, that's great, but what does that really mean? And then in the next sentence, they say, but you should also consider other metrics within your community. Okay, so now we've got to take that and try to incorporate it into a map and a illustrative chart to see what works for Ashland. So today was just a 5:30 in the morning, let's pull something together and have at 8 o'clock the admin who are local look at it. So.
I mean, as someone who has computer science degree, trying to do something formulaic or algorithmic on something that we haven't encountered before is impossible. So sure. I even have it makes me a little uncomfortable just to put something down there saying we will do X if Y.
No, I understand.
Because that we've never been there before. So I always think it's going to be, but one other thing about the schedule, we should probably throw on there August 18th and 31st, the tri-board meetings.
Yeah, fair enough. Yep.
Oh,
yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Paul, I agree. I attended the webinar yesterday. I don't know if any.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, with the commissioner. And this start was a big part of the conversation. Also just coming out kind of late after most committees voted. And so being able to use this and that just kind of passed by post. But also just the emphasis on remembering that it's a local decision. And this is just one thing to take a look at, if it even makes any sense, Paul, to your point. But we will be continuing just to look at our own local circumstances, what our Board of Health has to say, our space issue, our budget, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's sort of the guidance on the guidance, if that helps anybody. And I guess if we need to address a change in circumstances, with it, if you're bringing this up as it relates to meetings, then we would just have to add a meeting if our circumstances change. And my feedback was similar to yours, Paul, to Jim, is that, whatever we say about it, we need to leave room to not say, if this happens, then we will do X, because there may be a number of other conditions that we're not considering. So we have to get that figured out first, but my guess is that it will be a meeting to discuss whether or not we will make a shift according to that chart, rather than the chart will dictate what happens.
Right. If it's just a tool, then that's fine.
Yeah.
And can I just ask a clarification? Paul, you made reference to tri-board meetings the 18th and 31st, I did not have those in my calendar. Is that this month?
Yeah, me either.
Yes, that's
Just
Tuesday,
came out.
this coming Tuesday.
Okay. Did we get a like a Zoom invite on that or something? I just don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know that one either. I don't know them either, Mark.
I do.
All right, so so the 18th at what time?
7.
Tri board.
I will resend it as soon as we're done tonight.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
7, and then the other date was what? So 18th and the 31st?
31st, yes.
Okay, same
So-
time, 7?
Yeah, so it's 7 o'clock. So the first one is
Okay.
going to be a general project and scope overview of the Mendez project, where it is now in design, schematic design.
Okay.
And we will have budget numbers on the 21st. We have a public forum on the 27th, and then the 31st is a tri-board meeting where we'll be discussing the final budget numbers relative to that. We'll be taking a vote, hopefully, to in support of the project not being submitted for MSBA approval.
Okay.
So do we have a motion to the calendar for committee meetings next school year?
So moved. Except that,
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, Kathy,
aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Paul,
Yes.
and yes for me. And Kathy, have warrant approvals tonight?
Yes, I do. Let's see. Between July 23rd and August 12th, I, Kathleen Bates, authorized by my signature payables in the amount of $345,678.22. This includes general fund expenses of $259,583.65, revolving expenses of $19,099.52, and grant expenses of $66,995.05. Finally, I authorized payroll in the amount of $186,945.47.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Okay, moving on to the minutes of July 20. Does anybody have anything there? It sounds like no. So
No, I don't have any. Yeah.
does anyone want to make a motion?
I so move to accept the minutes of July, was it July?
22nd.
July 22nd, 2020.
Second.
All in favor, Kathy,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and I for me as well. Do we have any gifts and
We do. We have an anonymous gift of $5,000 to helping our own fund. And then we have Ohio Pile prints of $11.39 for miscellaneous gifts and donations for a total of $5,011.39.
accept the gifts and donations?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, Mark,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
I for me. Do we have any member updates?
None at this time.
No, nothing for me.
Nothing new on the action items, so I'm ready to take adjourn if that's it for this evening.
Our agenda says adjourn at 7:50. I move to adjourn at 7:50.
I'll second.
All in favor? Paul,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Aye for me. Thank you, everybody, for being here this evening, for your patience.
Yes.
Lori.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Good night.